What's happening, everybody? Steve here, Cars with Steve, and today I'm going to show you everything you need to know about the steering wheel as well as the instrument cluster inside of the Dodge Durango. Now, this is the SRT Hellcat, but it will have a similar style for the remainder of the lineup. So the buttons and things like that are going to be roughly the same, but a couple things about this specific vehicle. It's got the adaptive cruise control system as part of the added technology package. If yours didn't have that, it would just be slightly different setup there. But I'm going to show you everything you need to know, how all the buttons work, what everything does, looking at the actual cluster screen and going through all of the different pages. So let's dive into it, have a little bit of fun, and see what's going on with the buttons and the cluster inside of the Dodge Durango. Next up, let's take a peek at the steering wheel of the vehicle. So this is going to be a full in-depth look of the actual steering wheel itself. But starting off, we've got a pad along the left-hand side, and that's going to let us navigate through the actual screen itself there. So we'll get to that screen in just a second. Let's touch base on a few other things first. Pad on the left-hand side, we can either answer or hang up on a phone call. We've also got our voice command prompt. So we'd be able to do things like change the radio station, make phone calls, things like that, using our voice by simply pressing that button if we wanted to. So pretty straightforward there. Along the right-hand side, this is going to be our basic for our cruise control. Now, one of the nice things is that this thing also does have the adaptive cruise control system, so our set it and forget it cruise. We can literally turn this system on, and then how close or how far are we away from the vehicle that's in front of us. So we can adjust this very simply by going one or the other way. We can increase or decrease 1 kilometer or 1 mile per hour at a time. So the adaptive cruise control system is actually pretty straightforward. We just turn it on. Once we get to the set speed we like, we just press the up button there to set it, and then we can increase or decrease from there. We can cancel, we can resume, or we can turn the system off if we want to. So it's pretty straightforward there. Now, a few other things to point out before we get into this cluster screen. We do have paddle shifters in this vehicle, so we can easily adjust what gear we're in. So we've got our minus on the left, plus button on the right-hand side to be able to easily change out gears if we want to. Now, one other thing to point out, inside of all Dodge vehicles, if we look just behind the actual steering wheel itself, we do have a little pad there. So we can go literally up and down with it in order to be able to change out whatever station we're currently on. We can press this button in order to be able to change out sources as well. So we can change between our AM, FM, Sirius XM, etc. Along the other side, so the right-hand side of the steering wheel, we do have another little pad there. And then this pad, same thing. We can go between different songs, radio stations, and then we can increase or decrease the volume there as well, simply by pressing up and down. So we do have a little bit of flexibility there if we need it. Now, taking a peek at this pad, this is going to let us figure out what's going on with that cluster screen. So let's actually kind of zoom in a tiny little bit just so you can see what's going on. There we go. All right, so we're going to kind of flip up and down between different screens here as we go. So we kind of go up and down, as you can see there. We can press OK in order to enter setup, and then we can just go up and down between different pages there. We've got our diagnostics, so it's going to check for system diagnostics for a second there. Shouldn't have any diagnostic codes. This thing is brand new, so we'll come back to that one in just a second. We've got our speed warning there, so we can press the OK button in order to get into a speed warning, so we can turn that one on or off if we want to, very simply. Pressing back there and moving down. So you can see there we've got our digital speedometer, so we do have our kilometers. We can press OK to switch it out to miles very easily. Moving down a bit more, so as you can see there, we've got our tire pressure, and then whenever we see the left and the right icons there, that means that we can go left and right between different pages as well. So we've got our coolant temperature, we've got our transmission temperature, oil temp, we've got our oil pressure, oil life, we can do resets there for voltage, etc., our air intake temperature, engine torque, power, and a number of other things. So that is nice to know that we've at least got a little bit of flexibility as to what's showing up there. So if you have your preference, you can go one way or the other. We've got some 60-second timers as well. 0 to 100 timer. We've got some different reactions, so essentially reaction pages, so sport pages. So we can kind of see a summary there, but we will get into some more advanced settings there. So if you're looking for a more advanced view of how this screen works and looking at all the pages there, check down in the description below for that video instead. But it is nice to know in the cluster screen, we at least have some of those basic pages as well. Moving down, we do have our driver assistant settings there, so we can see what's going on there. And down again, we've got our fuel level. So fuel economy, we can press the OK button there in order to be able to reset ourselves back to 0 again. And then we can kind of go left and right if we want to go between our different screens. Moving down, we've got our different trip counters. So we've got our trip A versus B. And same idea, we can just press and hold the OK button in order to reset that value again. And again, we've got our trailer trip, so we can see how long we've been going if we're towing. We've got our trailer brake control, so we can see what's going on with the gain there. Our distance kilometer to empty as well. So it is nice to know that we've got some options there. We can figure out exactly what's going on with the station that we're tuned to as well. Moving down, if we had a phone connected, our messages would show up. And then we've also got our screen set up, so we can press OK in order to be able to change some things out. So I want to show you something for a second. So we can literally change out, so looking along the top left-hand side, what's showing up there. So we've got our time, our range, things like that, and we can literally select the majority of the things here. So we've got our outside temperature, time, etc. So we can customize this to more or less have whatever we'd like on it. And that's one of the great things, because if you have some options where, you maybe want to show different things, like whatever gear we're currently in, we can show that one as well, which is nice. We can go down to show different menus. We've got our gear display and things like that as well. So it is nice that we've at least got some flexibility as to what's showing up on this actual cluster screen. That's definitely a nice touch on Dodge's part there. And then we can just go back out in order to go back to that main screen. Going down, we've got our diagnostics again, which there weren't any codes showing up there, which makes sense because this is a brand new vehicle. But that's going to be the basics of the actual steering wheel and the cluster screen and how we can use all of these things. Now, one other thing to point out, the stick on the left-hand side. Now, this stick is going to let us adjust what's going on with our wipers, so we can adjust our front wiper there, and we can adjust our rear wiper in the middle there as well. Flip our high beams on, we can lock them out if we want to as well. So it is simple, and that's going to be the steering wheel and the cluster screen in a nutshell. So that is pretty cool, right? Like, I love the paddle shifters. I love Dodge's styling, how we've got those buttons along the very back of the wheel as well. So we can literally adjust what's going on with media. We can adjust our volume just very, very simply. What did you guys think? If you have any questions, ran into any problems, drop down in the comments section below and let me know. I'm more than willing to talk you through any problems that you might be having, answer any of the questions, or I can put you in touch with the people that can. If you enjoyed the video though, give it a thumbs up, share it with your social networks, and think about subscribing. And until I see you next time, take care.